Yeah, so I want to mention this while it's recorded. Hi everyone, Emma, sir, Grace, Sarah, good to see you guys. I want to mention this. This is very interesting. Okay, when you dig deeper into someone's financials, what you will see is that they may have 5, 10, 15, 20, 50, 100 limited companies registered, different projects under different limited companies, and they're leveraging from one to the other. In most cases, is just leveraging debt and equity and arbitrage between one company to the other till they monetize one deal well, and then they balance the sheets from one company to the other. And in many cases, the umbrella company would be registered in some tax haven. Um, and so that would be a normal structure. Okay. And don't be surprised that you pull out 99 of their companies and they're all under debt and in minus, while only one company is making profit. Don't be surprised. This is normal scenarios that happens behind the scene with larger companies. Okay? When I say larger, medium to large companies, more like it. Okay? Even now, for example, me, I sometimes leverage one company to the other, expenses and so on and so forth. I'd go from one company using my expenses, going to the other company, and then leveraging debt from one side to the other side of the deal. I do it. I do it all the time. Okay. So that's a normal thing. Okay. All right, guys. Good to see you, everyone. Hey, Puneet. Good to see you. All right. We have 4 aspects to cover. I can cover one very, very quickly for you because the depth of it you'd only understand when you physically do it yourself. I can show you some of the basics on one of our accounts, so booking.com. I can cover this in 10 minutes, 15 minutes max. The screen. All right, guys, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
All right, so this is one of my accounts. This is a Osprey hotel. Okay. At the moment, I have 300 hotels under my management. Well, when I say my management, they're not under my management, but I still control some aspects of them.
How
One of
many
them
did you
is,
say? 100.
say that again.
I didn't quite catch how many
So
you
I
have.
said I still have 3 hotels
Okay.
under some sort of management of me. One of them we own freehold, 2 of them leasehold. The freehold one is given out lease to a corporate company. So I don't manage the day-to-day operations. All I do is take the rent. Okay. However, the 2 which are lease hotels, they are more like a hybrid management under me. One of them is this one. So if you look at these tabs, this is one of the accounts of booking.com. You go home. It shows you all the bookings. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Can you see 25 nights booking, 1 guest?
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. Likewise, when you click on promotions, okay, so your active promotions. Now look at that. There is 4 promotions at any given time. So there's the mobile rate. Remember, most people check deals on their mobiles these days. Okay. And then if you're a regular user of booking.com, you kind of go from Genius level 1 to Genius level 2 to Genius level 3 of your own. And when you get to Genius level 3, you really open up all sorts of discounts of booking.com. But this is 10% on if you book on your mobile. This is European economic country rate. So if you're in Europe, you'll get another 10%. Domestic country rate is another 10% discount. Okay. And then on top of that, we run another 10, 20% basic deal. Okay. And this is more like a temporary thing. If you look at this is always active, always active, always active. While this is dependent on when you run this promotion. Okay. Likewise, when you go on boost performance, can you see commission-free bookings? Genius Partner Program. If you join the Genius Partner Program, what it does is that it sends emails of your deals to Booking.com subscribers. So all of a sudden, you can open up 30-40% exposure to people on Booking.com's database, which is millions. Okay.
How much does
Preferred
it cost?
Partner Program is another one, which again, these are all promotions, guys. Long tail toolkit. I'm going to click on that, but I'll go through Visibility Booster. You can buy another one, Visibility Booster. Work-friendly program, Smart Flex Reservation. These are all promotions. And there's another one where you can actually go from paying 50% to 20% to Booking.com, and they keep adding extra layers of exposure to your hotel. Does that make sense? I'm going to click on the long stays toolkit. Okay. Now, if you observe, I have a monthly rate plan and a weekly rate plan. Okay. Guests can book minimum 28 days. Okay.
Okay.
And get another extra 20% discount. Okay. I'm just trying to look for the data. Sometimes it doesn't show data easily. Okay. But this is a promotion that's already running. So let me just add one. It will take me to that add monthly rate. If I add that, and I'll write it test, and then I'll delete it because it doesn't take you to that screen unless you run another one. Flexible 7 days. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. 30%. That's fine. Monthly rate test. Okay. Click activate rate plan. I'm just running a test for you so you guys can see. It'll take me to that screen, which you can't find unless you add another long-term promotion, and it takes you to that screen again. Plays funny. Okay. See, this screen I would have not found unless I added another one. Can you see test?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to go and delete this very quickly. Otherwise, I'll end up with a very cheap booking.
Jack,
Yes.
what are the this cost of these promotions? Does it?
You give discounts. You give discounts anywhere 10% onwards. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you look at this, right, it says,
Okay.
yeah, it says weekly rate, 40% cheaper than flexible.
Okay.
And then monthly rate, 50% cheaper than flexible.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, remember, we are sitting on off-peak season.
Yeah.
Okay. When someone wants to book a monthly for a month, let's say, okay, I'm happy to pay 50. I'm happy to give them 50% discount.
Okay.
Okay. Because every penny that comes in at off-peak season pays the bills.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. You can
But
see
I
the net
was
revenue
thinking
from
in
these.
these promotions, you have the full layer of different promotions. So you probably have to pay something to Booking.com, or they take it directly from the customers.
So you pay 15% to Booking.com from the gross revenue.
Okay.
Anywhere between 15 to 20%, you can choose that 15 to 20%, and the more you give Booking.com, the more exposure they will give you.
So you can choose any of these different promotions.
That is right. Okay. Yes. Punit, go ahead.
Sorry, Domain. I was going to say, is that not 15% plus VAT? So you...
No, that's 15% in total.
That's right. I'll have to look at mine. So I had units on Booking.com previously, and I was being charged 15% plus VAT, plus a charge for if they take payment. There was another charge on top of that.
So they take the payment transaction charges, which is normally about 1.5%.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they don't charge you VAT if you choose that you're not VAT registered. On this account, we are not VAT registered.
Oh, fine. Okay.
So we don't pay any VAT on the 15%. Going back, if I was to just show you, look at all the home tabs, okay? Okay, look at all the promotions. You can choose new promotions. You can, if you look at choose new promotions, you'll see a list of the new promotions. Look at that, stimulate max discount. Look at that. Early 2025 deal, mobile rate, country rate, basic, last minute, early book a deal. And they keep running these on regular basis. And then you click on booking performance, and you click on any one of them. Okay, these are all promotions. Okay, the more you dig deeper into all of these, the higher the occupancy. I can sit here. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing the screen. I can sit here and I can have 90% occupancy all day long. All day long. If I'm actively managing it. I have to be actively managing this, because if you leave this too passively, that means in your case, when you hire a manager, you first need to learn everything yourself, and then you need to teach it to the manager. So there's a full-time person making sure that you get the highest occupancy. Does that make sense?
Makes sense, yeah.
Remember, it depends a lot on your product as well. Okay, so if you have a shitty place, believe me not, I've been through that journey. If you have a shitty place, then booking.com really can't help you. Okay, you gotta have a good place to stay for people. Okay, believe me, I've been through that journey. I do have at least one product in my life, in my space, which I still struggle to sell. Okay, so I'm looking to shift that to someone else. Okay, but you do need a good product, and then booking.com, I can assure you, you go through those tabs, spend a couple of days, and you'll be surprised how quickly you can get to 90%. And so when I say you can take a block and you can take a hotel, and in a block, let's say I always say you can easily make 500 a month each unit. I'm really being very conservative. Okay, someone like me, I even an average flat, I can easily churn around 1,000 a month. Okay, average. If it's a good flat, I can get you 2,000 a month. So imagine if it's a good block of flats, newly built, you've got 9, let's say 10 flats, you take out 10, you make 2,000 a month, you're making £20,000 a month in net profits if you just follow that booking.com screen that I showed you, and you learn the most intricate details that there is to learn. Okay, it's almost like you're going to the front of the booking.com to how your ad looks, all your pictures. Does it say genius partner member? Does it say, the trusted badge? You name it, you keep digging into the smallest detail, and you will get to a point where you'd be like, well, you know what? All of my place is full. The number of people who come to me, or those who I see online saying, well, I'm quiet and I can't fill my rooms, I'm thinking, the only reason you're not able to do is either you have a bad product, okay, that means you don't have a clean place to stay, or you just don't know how to do your marketing or your promotions. Okay, you just don't know where people break. That means when they are checking online, you can go on booking.com, check so much data that you can actually tell what people click on and what people book. Everything. I just showed you the two basics of longer bookings, shorter bookings. Let me just log in into one of my channel managers so you can see through a bit more. Share my screen again. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
This is another one that I manage, well, partly manage. This is off-peak season, guys. Can you see all the bookings? Look at that, longer bookings. Can you see that? This is booking.com bookings, long bookings. See that? Longer bookings. Now scroll through. Look at all the longer bookings from booking.com. These are all direct bookings that you see blocked. Yes. Look at this booking. This is from booking.com. I think it's a monthly booking. Yeah, it's a monthly booking. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Number 2, booking.com. And I'll go towards the right. It's a monthly booking. Can you see that, guys? I think it's not even a month. It's 2 months booking. Jesus Christ. Okay, let me just click on the booking itself so you see what I mean. Okay, Pavel. Can you see that, guys? Yeah, so this is a booking 18th January to 24th March, 29th March. This is what, two and a half months booking? Check in, check out. Raise your hand if you can see that, guys. That's another one. Look at that, longer bookings. View. 16th January to 2nd Feb, that's 2 weeks. This is off-peak season, guys. You with me?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me share something very interesting with you. The first time when I was setting all of this up, for straight 30 days, I used to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning and I'd sleep at 2 o'clock at night. Okay, like straight 20, 22 hours. It took me straight 30 days to get my head around booking.com, Airbnb, Expedia. Remember, Expedia owns 300 channels. Just to get my head around all of these 3 portals, plus the channel manager. And really understand how all of these are connected and how you can run promotions and get maximum. The first promotion that I ran when I opened the hotel, I got £50,000 worth of bookings in 2 weeks. And this was only a 10-bedroom hotel, guys. A 10-bedroom hotel. £15,000 worth of bookings. I used to sleep, wake up 3 hours later, and 100 emails. Okay? Just because it's almost like I cracked the code of booking.com. Okay? And so does Expedia. We used to get about 10% bookings from Expedia and 90% from booking.com. Airbnb, I closed because they changed their policy of, oh, well, someone can complain and booking.com will refund them and not pay us. So I said, I'm not going to use it. Okay? Unfortunately, Blackpool, where these hotels were, it's a party town. Okay? And people come, sleep, party, and then go, and then they just want a free night. So they just go back and complain and get the money back, which became a problem for us. So eventually I just closed Airbnb. Airbnb is a massive tool. Do not underestimate it. It can be used in most places, just not Blackpool. Okay? All right, guys. So of the 4 subjects, I've covered 1, which is booking.com. Also, I think everyone has got a message from me saying, I've taken access away on Drive. I will DM you the sheets regularly. When you make the contact with landlords, you come back to me, we will update it. So you will come back to me, email me which deal you've got a positive indication for. We will update it on the sheet ourselves. Okay, and we'll provide you updated sheets on regular basis so you have nothing to worry about. The only reason I had to do that is because some members, unfortunately, were deleting data and it becomes a major problem for us. So I have to do it in a structured way. So we thought, okay, this is probably the easiest way to do it. Okay, I know some members were not, and but we just have to have a structure.
I'm sorry, I think I'm one of the members, because I know that I was that, but the reason being Jack, reason being that I actually created the block sheet, and you obviously didn't have time to go through it. So when you know that Nimbus gives the list of all the plannings,
Yes,
and you have like 4 or 5 of the same property, 4 or 5 these conditions.
I know.
So condition 1, 2, 3, then 10, 20. So I deleted all the conditions. Then I got up with half the list. You know,
I promise you, you don't have to explain.
I knew that you didn't have time to go through it, so I actually deleted it, but I didn't delete anything of importance.
I know, Damir. You don't have to explain. There's no right or wrong here, okay? There's no right or wrong. It's just creating a structure in place so it's a good flow for everyone.
No, okay, it's all right.
That's all it is. Okay, so there's no right or wrong, so you don't have to worry about it. It's just a bit more like now when someone gets their sheet, they can do it on their sheet, and then what we can do is when you get a positive indication, you come back, we will put it on our sheet. I'd be able to track it as well.
Okay.
But we'll keep sending you updated sheets whenever you need it, so you don't have you have nothing to worry. So there's no right or wrong here. It's just making
right.
We follow.
No, I was thinking you're too busy to work with all this, to kind of juggle with all the other guys, you know. So I thought that's kind of allowable to work on your sheet.
Yeah, don't worry. Okay, so I have covered the 4 subjects, and then practice grow model, practice grow model. I've covered the number 2, dig deeper into planning gains, your updates and visits to landlords. Right, guys, if you are visiting your landlords, when you get a positive indication, or if you think you might get a positive indication and you need my help, as in the sense of me being present in the next meeting with the landlord, all you have to do is just ask me. Okay, and then I will jump with you on a Zoom call or even a one-to-one meeting, as in when I come, when I'm there, I can physically be there to attend the meeting so we can close deals together. Okay, so don't hesitate thinking, oh, I'm struggling to get a yes from the landlord. I don't know if Jack can be present here. Don't think that. I will make sure that I'm present. Okay, it might take some time to juggle my diary, but I will make sure I'm present because it's important to understand that we are closing deals on a regular basis. Okay, so like I said, all you need to do is when you get some sort of positive indication, you come back to me by email saying, Jack, deal, this is the address. I spoke with the landlord, and can we jump on a quick call and we can go from there. Okay. The next one is dig deeper into planning gain steps and practice grow model. Now, practicing grow model, I think it was Grace who was insisting, this is literally the most important thing. Okay, by far. Okay, the second most important thing in the line is planning gain steps. Okay, so we have 2 left. Okay, what would you like to do out of the 2? We can't cover both.
Planning gain for me.
Planning gain for you. Okay, Punit.
Yeah, I think planning gain would be good.
Planning gain. Okay, let's go with planning gain. Good, that's fine. Okay, I'm going to open my spreadsheet. I will go through as much as I can. Please bear with me. I have changed my laptop today, so I will need a little extra minute. All right, I'm sharing my screen, which is the planning gain steps sheet, exactly the one I shared in the group. All right. Okay, can you see my screen, please?
Yep.
You can. All right, guys. Check planning approval or refusal ratios of each council before you do absolutely anything. Okay. Last time when I was trying to find this information, I was struggling. Okay. However, this is the data you need to pull out from the local council's website or go test Google. Alan, let me ask you this. Do you know a way to pull out this data?
I'm sure I've seen that data.
I've seen it as well.
Yes,
I can't remember how to pull this data.
Think where it is. But yes, it gives it very precisely the councils that are good and those that are a nightmare to deal with. So as you say, you can save yourself a lot of heartache if you find the good ones. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I'll find it and I'll share it.
Exactly. I will find it and I'll share it with you guys as well. But remember, if your data is heading towards the below 50% mark, okay, I would save time. Okay, it will take you double the amount of work to put in because they're anti-change. Are you with me? So the council officers, remember, you get planning permission not based on the logic and the reports and all the information that you present. You will get planning permission if you understand politics of that council. Okay? So looking at the approval and refusal ratios will actually help you understand the politics that's going on. Are they anti-approval or they are, pro-approval? And that is important to learn. I think there is one town in Kent where the planning approvals are at 19%, 1919. So for every 100 applications made, they only approve 19. What a disaster. When you have that kind of shortage in the country, you're not supposed to reject the damn application. You're supposed to work with the developer and say, well, provide us this and we will grant you, rather than just completely going out there and rejecting it. Are everyone with me on the same page? Okay, this is data that you can pull out. It's not very difficult. We just have to spend a bit more time. But just so you're aware that this data is available. Okay? If you don't read national policy, you will not understand planning. You do need to go and read national policy. It's boring, but you have no choice. I have done it twice, guys. Okay? Unfortunately, that is what the game is. Okay? Study the 5-year plan and local policies of councils, local authority, proposal guide, and proposal map, including Article 4. Okay? Article 4 is data, public data. You can get it from your local website, local council's website. Proposal guide and proposal map is available on Nimbus Maps. However, you can get this data from, again, the local council's website. Local authority, local policy of the council, as in the local authority, you really need to understand. So attending their meetings is a good way to understand what's really going on. Okay, so when they have their own meetings, they're normally public meetings. You can go and attend these meetings, and then you will understand not just internal politics, anti or pro, but also the planning officers involved and what are they more inclined towards. Are you with me? Okay, so if let's say when you start to attend these local meetings and you attend, let's say 5-10 of these, you start to get a very good idea. When you apply for something and you look at the planning officer that's been given your file, you probably know the guy. You start to get to know guys in your local council. Everyone with me on this? Okay, and then also the 5-year plan. What is the local council's 5-year plan? Okay, what is the government's 5-year plan. What is it that they want to do? How many units they want to build in the country or in a local region? All of this information is vital, like super, super important. Intimate knowledge of the local area, like price per square foot and for new build. The number of times I mentioned this is countless. If you don't know your local area, you are going to make major mistakes. Intimate knowledge of which areas are more in demand and kinds of properties. That means in every, so imagine if you live in, I don't know, let's say, Ahmed sir lives in TW, the me lives in UP. What you want to understand is, what does the council want? When you read their, I think they issue guides on regular basis to what kind of properties do they need more? Do they need one bed flats, 2-bed flats, 3-bed flats, 3-bed houses? What do they want? They will actually give you in their supplementary guidance notes. Raise your hand if you know what I mean. Okay. Write these things because they're super important, guys. When you start to do all of this, you need to understand all of this. You can actually take this spreadsheet and make notes for yourself on the side. Okay. Understanding your tools like Google, Nimbus Maps, Land Insight, Ordnance Survey, super, super important. I've shown how to use Ordnance Survey map. This is all free. Land Insight is paid, Nimbus Maps is paid. But Google, 50% of what you see on Nimbus Maps and Land Insight comes from free Google tools. Okay? So learning to use these tools is simple. Street View, Ordnance Survey, you look at, literally the whole street from different perspectives and say, does this make sense what I'm about to propose? Okay? Remember, one of the major reasons for refusal is when someone submits a development which does not match the characteristics of the region. Raise your hand if you know what I mean. You're just proposing something that doesn't match the characteristics of the local region, and they have no choice but to refuse. Are you with me? And this is actually the biggest reason for refusals. Why would you do that? That's what most people end up doing. Okay, you might think it's common sense. Unfortunately, that's not the case. What's the potential of the area? What do I mean by that? Anyone wants to try this question? Alan, do you want to try this?
Yeah, I think this means that there could be opportunities to enhance the environment. It may be, for example, an area that's quite sparsely developed, and so there are opportunities for infills and making a higher density of development without actually spoiling the characteristic of the property of the area.
Thank you. I don't think I could have given a better answer. Okay.
Great.
It is literally looking at the region and saying, how can we achieve the potential of the region, potential of the land that we have available? You want to give everything to the local officer that he expects and a little more. Okay? If you give them less than what they expect, you will get a refusal. You give them what they expect, you should get an approval. But if you give them more than what they want, slightly more at least, and in some positive light where you're helping achieve the potential of the land, the region, and enhancing the characteristics of the region, then they have less reasons to refuse. Okay? How to find sites. I've shown this in many different sessions. Please do go back to those sessions. As you identify potential site, review the local council's policies regarding development potential. Read their local policy. Understand the proposal guide and the map and the supplementary notes. And what is their next 5-year plan? What is it that council actually wants? You need to understand that. Okay, and you can do that by, like I said, attending their meetings. You can do that by reading what they have refused in the local region. You can read that, you can understand that by reading what they have approved. You start to get a very good gist of all of this the more you read. Like you read financial reports, Damir, if you start reading the local approval and refusal apps, you start to get a gist of that as well. Okay, what's the existing value of existing material use? This is not written by me. I think it's I know it is. Ignore that bit. Establish relationships, landlords with potential buyer is sourcing and realizing potential, then the developer or builder who will buy. Okay, just in chronological order of things. So creating relationships with landlords and potential buyers, and then developers and builders who will buy. Okay, normally remember, when you are working on planning gain, your best client who will buy the site from you is the local builder.
Yeah.
Okay, so don't hesitate making a list of local builders and save it in your drive for when you get the development approved. All you have to do is call up these builders and say, look, I have a site that has already got the approval, and the best way to sell is get them to bid. So if, let's say, you have 20 active builders in the region, okay, get them to bid against and say, look, the starting price is X, I will let you bid and we will decide from that point. That way you reach the highest asking price by getting them to bid. Okay, and I can tell you from my own personal experience, anywhere, when you reverse engineer the appraisal, if you leave the builder with profit margins of anywhere between 10 to 20%, they'll be happy. Most builders would take it. Okay, so you don't have to leave any more than, I have seen deals sold at 10% profit margin. Very, very high risk for a builder, but they still do it. But guess who wins in that space? Raise your hand if you know what I mean. Who is winning in the space? We are. Okay, because we are helping them potentially reach the highest potential of the land, and then be able to get the highest price for that development. We become winners. Okay, what's the price per square foot new build? I've already written that above. I'm actually gonna delete these lines, but that makes sense. And then I have already written that above. Research on demand of the kind of units. This will already come in supplementary notes of the council. You can also search Zoopla and Rightmove and Nimbus Maps or whatever, but I think the best tool would be using local council supplementary notes. Okay. Drawing 2-3 variants of layout proposed development scheme, always the case. I think someone mentioned it. I think it was Anara who mentioned it in the last session, saying you gotta have 2 or more variants or layouts for the proposed development. Don't try to do this yourself unless you're an architect. Okay. I struggled with this aspect if I was to do it alone. I need to have an architect and a planner besides me to look. This is how I am looking at it. What are your thoughts? Okay. Alan, how would you deal with something like this if you were building from
scratch? Yeah, I do work with different architects and different planning consultants, and you need to get some preliminary advice from them, ideally for free, because if the job goes forward, then they will get a paid commission. So you just need to seek the expert advice for minimal cost.
That is right. So most planners and architects will give you about 15 minutes to half an hour for free.
Yeah.
Some may even give you an hour, as long as they're your regular, and then they would expect the job at the back of that. But without that feedback from the local planner, I wouldn't do this alone. Okay. Predictable net sellable area. again, this is something that needs a lot more time. So when you start drawing these things, what you will observe is that some regions, they might allow, I mean, I've seen developments where they only allow 50% of the land, on the 50% of the land, while I've seen others where they've built up to 90%. You'll be surprised. I've actually seen developments where they've allowed 50%, 90% of the site. Okay. But you need to understand your local council's policy and what do they expect. The one I saw, which covered 90%, the ground floor was all parking. And they had put pillars and built development on top of that. Alan, you might have seen these, right? This was in Croydon, actually, interestingly.
Yeah, it's efficient use of space if you've got a limited area site. Yeah.
When I looked at that development, 90% space, 90% space given, and I was like, how is that even possible in Croydon? And when I looked at the actual drawings, I was like, this is amazing. So the whole ground floor was parking, and very strong foundation pillars, and then I think they were given, I can't remember how many floors was it. I can't remember exactly how many floors was it, but this was in Croydon. Okay, but again, for you to understand if you would be able to, or the net sellable area, to maximize that, you do need the help of the local planner and architect. So don't just sit there and assume. The point I was trying to make was, don't just sit there and assume saying, oh, you're only going to get 50% of the land to build. Don't assume that. Okay, this is not for us to assume. Again, the more applications you do, the more you start to get a gist of this on how someone would look at it. Again, one thing I learned is, and I must share, this is so important, okay? Just because a planner draws you, let's say, 2 or 3 variants, does not mean that's like the best thing, okay? Don't hesitate taking second or the third opinion, depending on the site, because eventually you are responsible. Either that's an architect, a planner, the legal team, or whichever consultants you might be working with. Eventually, they are not responsible, you are. And if they understood the whole game, they wouldn't be just planners. Please raise your hand if you know what I mean.
That's true.
Okay, they won't be just architects, right? They would be full stack developers. But the reason they are architects is because they don't understand the full picture. So you need to be the one understanding the full picture and working and making sure that they are doing a good job. Don't just take their word for granted. Does that make sense? Okay. Estimated development cost is build plus professional fees, finance costs, sales and legal costs plus the purchase. It's the estimated development cost. So yeah, that's a good way of, like, an eagle view of looking at it. I think everyone here has the basic development appraisal spreadsheet, right? What's the land value, reverse engineering appraisal? Raise your hand if you still don't know what I mean by reverse engineered appraisal, in terms of looking at the site, adding all of these build costs, professional fees, finance costs, sales and legal costs, and then working out, after adding your profit margin of 20%, that you come up with the cost of the land or the cost of the property. Raise your hand if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, you need to do this a few times before you really get a gist of this, okay? Without a reverse engineered appraisal, you cannot go and negotiate a deal. Simple. Because you just don't know the numbers, okay? And the chances of you going in there without a reverse engineered appraisal and trying to negotiate, the likely is that 99% of the times you will mess up the deal. So do not talk numbers at your first initial approach, because you do not have the numbers or the tools to negotiate. Okay? Negotiation isn't just about your grow model and your persuasion skills. It's a lot to do with your appraisal. Ask abnormals list separately. Please raise your hand if you have the abnormals list. Okay, so can you remind me after the session to share the abnormals list? And I will do that. I have it in my drive. Okay. Abnormals really here means is when you look at a site or any sort of property that you want to eventually apply planning for, you want to make sure that abnormals are like if there is contaminated land, does the land need underpinning? Is there any electric wires underneath the dam land or any pipes or anything that is not supposed to be there? You know, if you want to get planning, or there's wires above you, or a whole bunch of lists, like there's a whole bunch of lists. You need to understand that because you need to go through that list to be able to work out which abnormals you need to deal with before you apply. You can apply for planning. Okay. Build strong relationships with landlords. I think this is already repeated. Landlords as well as buyers. Buyers fee or your sourcing. Get agreements signed. Guys, please, this is important. Okay. If you are going to go and sell a deal to someone, do not put the address. Only put the first part of the postcode. If you put the full address, someone is going to come and take your deal and sell it for cheaper sourcing. Okay? Or they're going to mess up your deal in one or the other way. They'll go and meet the landlord and somewhere mess up your deal. Have it in black and white before you share the full address. Okay? NDA and NNDA and whatnot. There's all sorts of agreements out there. You can actually get these agreements online on, I think it's called Law Depot. I used to use Law Depot. So there's lots of agreements that I have saved in my drive as well. So if you need access to them, please do ask me. However, I always recommend that you use a solicitor. Downloaded documents are not the best. Only use them as and when basically necessary. But once you get to the real deal, you want to use a solicitor, because for trying to save £1,000 or £2,000, you don't want to mess up a deal that's going to bring you $500,000. Okay. Assess where the landlord might be in terms of asking price, ballpark figure. Don't ask this question unless you've presented some sort of figures to him, and then ask that question very cautiously. Okay. Heads of terms, option agreement if possible. Ask for template if you need one. Use solicitors for all agreements. I have the option agreement as well. I'd have to dig and then remove all the personal data from it, but I'm happy to share an option agreement with you. Remember, we as a company are only inclined towards option agreements. I don't necessarily want to buy a deal unless I am about 100% sure that we are going to get that. Okay? I'm not putting any money at super high risk. It's all about calculated risks. Okay? Get the best team. No need to say that. But hey, the number of people who mess this up is unbelievable. Like they'd go and hire the cheapest plumber. Raise your hand if you're the one who hires the cheapest people. I was one. Not anymore. Okay? If you hire the cheapest plumber, that's exactly what you will get, the work. If you go and hire the cheapest builder, that's exactly what you will get. This was me in my 20s. I don't do that anymore. Now it is based on first attitude and then skills. And then third thing is the money that they're charging. Okay? First aspect is their attitude. Okay? Are they humble? Are they communicative? Do they actually sit there and understand with empathy what are you talking about? Or are they just there and, saying their own thing and doing their own thing? Okay? Agree the deal. Your negotiation comes from reverse engineer appraisal and the fact finding you did through the GROW model at the start. Okay? All of this is, like I said, super easy. I've shared this many times, that your tools come from reverse engineered appraisal and then the GROW model. Okay? Assess technical and legal issues. Okay? Now, let me talk about legal issues, right? Covenants on the title. Okay. To land boundary disputes, to, I mean, there's a million things that you will in your journey find it either on the title or the lease documents or some sort of legal documents that you need to be aware of if you are to make those decisions. If you leave it to the solicitor, you will suffer. Okay? You cannot leave the stuff to the solicitor. Yes, let them read and report to you. You still have to, unfortunately, sit there and read everything that they send you. Okay? I hate reading legal documents, guys. Okay? I still read every single one of them. And I can tell you with my experience, every time I don't read or I skim through, I look back and I suffer. Okay? Optimize project. Now, what do I mean by that? Alan actually does a good job at this, okay? So what he does, what optimize means basically, you create one appraisal, you create 2 sets of drawings or 3 sets of drawings, but you keep optimizing your numbers as well as the site variance as in drawings to keep optimizing to achieve its full potential. Raise your hand if you know what I mean. And you keep doing this throughout the project. So if let's say a project takes you 12 months, you literally do this every 2 months, every 3 months, sometimes even every month. Okay? So when you will look back at the end of 12 months or 24 months, you may be looking at 12 different spreadsheets. But when you compare the first one to the last one, what you will see is the compounded bottom line profits. Raise your hand if you know what I mean. Compounded bottom line profits. Okay? Very, very important. The number of times I see a project making barely 20%, and by the time when you look back at it, 12 months later, you ended up getting an extra floor, you ended up getting some sort of extra on the side or at the back or something along the lines, and then you go from 20%, sometimes up to 50% profits, is amazing. Like so many deals I see like that. Okay. Reverse value engineering. Okay. This is where you're talking about efficiency in the project. Raise your hand if you know what I mean. Okay. Get the best planning, discuss, apply, evaluate, respond accordingly in that chronological order. Discuss, apply, evaluate once you've applied, and then respond accordingly. Choose the best variant for proposed development in principle and take into account the steps below. Pre-app to the council's planning department. Here's a question I've been asked many, many times, which is pre-app a good idea? I get this asked a lot. Okay, Alan, do you wanna add something to this? I wanna see what your thoughts are.
Yes, it's a tricky question because
Yes.
a pre-app can be useful because it guides you about what the local planning officers and his colleagues think about a site. Yes. The only thing is they're not committed to it, so it's not a firm approval of what your suggestions are. So you may put the planning application in, and then you may get it rejected, because the committee rejects it, even though the planning officer has guided you to put something in which he thinks should be acceptable.
Yes. Here is my observation. Pre-app is like, you watch these crime documentaries, right? And they start with the elimination process. Okay? A pre-app is like an elimination process. You keep eliminating reasons for their refusal. Does that make sense? Okay? So you go through everything in that file, in that application. And then when you do make an application, that the pre-app would help you do all the elimination of all the reasons that they might refuse. Okay, that has been my observation behind the scene. Okay, again, this stuff between pre-app, or you're supposed to do pre-app, or you go for a full app, really is deal dependent, or so very heavily dependent on what kind of deal you're looking at. Okay, submission of justified variants of development and design and access statements as part of the pre-app and advice. You're gonna have a design and access statement anyway. All this is for the planning officer to look at for you. But again, reading a few of these will help you get a basic understanding of these. Okay. Remember, this is called design and access statement for a reason. Okay. Receiving the council's feedback on pre-app advice and taking into account all the council's requirement for the proposed development. Pretty obvious. Take their feedback and put it in the full app. When you do create design according to the council's pre-application requirements. There's a reason I say always hire someone with full track record. It's because they would know exactly what the council would expect. Okay, well, at least in most cases, I would say, not all of them. Okay, justification on demand for the types of units should be in DAS, as in the design and access statement. Type of units is a combination of what the planning officer says, what you think, and what the supplementary notes from the council will provide you. Okay, you don't want to give 100 townhouses to a council when they expect 100 two-bed flats. Okay, you just don't want to do that. Okay, you want to play with what they want, and you go along with that. You may add some of what you want as well. Don't get me wrong, but in most cases, you want to give them what they want. Okay, taking into account all council's recommendations into your full planning application. Funding, right? My expertise is funding. Ask me questions. Okay, it's simple. You can get 35% of the purchase price as debt. Sorry, you can get 65% of the purchase price as debt. My apology. 35% you need as deposit if you want to develop. And in most cases, we can get 100% of the development cost. The leverage you want to look at in total, as in purchase price and build, is normally no more than 70% on the cost, and no more than 90% on the GDV. In many cases, we can even get you a MES facility. MES is on top of the senior debt. And in some cases, I can even get you equity for as long as it meets the 25% net profit on the GDV target. That's where we are. Do you have any questions in terms of funding? I'm going to stop sharing screen for a second. We are at funding number 42. We have Amir, Ahmed Sir, Alan, Bot. I'm only guessing this is Bosman, Grace, Punit, and Sarah. Do you have any questions in terms of funding?
Not at the moment, no. There's a lot to take on as well. And I was just having a quick search for any planning meetings going on and things that I could attend. And then start building that experience and knowledge area.
It is. Okay. Sarah, Grace, do you have any questions in terms of funding? Sir, any questions? All right. Okay. So I think most of you already know that my technicality comes from funding. I was a qualified financial advisor. So I came into the whole property picture a lot more through the channel of funding. Okay. I'm going to share the screen again. And find the right contractor. All right. I think the most difficult part of development is finding the right contractor. Not planning application. It is the most difficult part, finding the right contractor. Okay. If you find or when you find the right contractor, if let's say you want to develop, when you find the right contractor, hold on to that person. Because the number of contractors out there, the cowboys, okay, I would say the numbers are less than 1%. Okay. I have come across, I'll tell you an instance, okay? So there's a builder working on the site. Oh no, a sub builder working on the site, and then you have the main contractor, right? We asked that I rang the builder. I said, on this wall, my kid wants a wallpaper. We ordered it instead of the paint. I called him up. He didn't answer the phone. So I was on site. I asked the subcontractor, can you put the wallpaper instead of painting? And he said, yeah, I'll do it. It doesn't cost us any more than if we were to paint. He said, are you going to charge anything extra? He goes, no. The builder turns up 3 hours later. So, well, what's happening here? Why have you put the wallpapers? Well, I asked for it. I tried calling you. You didn't answer the phone. I'm going to charge you 300 rand for it. I said, you boys are sitting here. They said, we're not going to charge you anything extra because it's no more time investment than painting. He goes, you either pay me 300 pound, okay, or it goes in your, like, I'm going to send you a debt bill. Okay. Then I get a call from the builder, contractor, saying there's a leak underneath he was digging something and he had to do some pipe work, some plumbing work, okay? Calls me up, he says there's a leak, which when I got there, it almost felt like he's dug the ground, there was a pipe underneath that, and somehow the builders have, when they were digging, they just blew the pipe off, okay? And then he turns up and says, this is going to cost you 800 pounds. Well, I said, why is it going to cost me? There was no leak before. Your boys started digging it up. He goes, well, either you pay 800, I'm not going to do the work. Okay. I can tell you a million instances, right? But unless you don't have the right contractor in place. In fact, another one was we were getting some work done. We still were getting noise from the ground floor to the top floor. And then I asked for extra insulation. And that insulation was work of half a day with no more than 200 pound worth of material. Okay. The guy charged me 2,500 pounds. Okay. Alan, you see this all the time, right? You see this all the time.
Yeah, absolutely right, Jack. Yeah, if you can get a good contractor, worth hanging on to.
Very, very important, guys. The wrong contractor means he will eat up decent part of your profits for absolutely nothing. Okay. And then if you are trying to remove these guys, it just becomes a big challenge to bring another builder. And I mean, that in and itself is a hassle. Try and get, okay, I was trying to get a quotation for a site, right? This contract was worth a couple of £1 million. I messaged 20 builders. 5 of them replied. 3 of them turned up and gave a quotation. Okay. And then imagine if that person, let's say one of the contractors starts, he ends up leaving, you have to do the whole process again, which can sometimes take you up to 3 months, guys. Okay. So that's exactly why I am not in favor of developing, because I just know the pain of dealing with contractors. Like I said, in the spreadsheet, the most difficult thing is finding the right contractor. Okay. I'm going to carry on with the sheet. Sell, who will buy a part of this phase 2 due diligence, though it's the last step. Selling before you build is possible, building if possible. Okay. So lining up, so this is again very important. I'm gonna stop sharing the screen, okay? Understanding your exit is the most important part, guys. Okay? You are supposed to know exactly your exit before you even start on the deal. Write this down, please. You are supposed to know your exit before you even do step 1 of your deal. let's say you get a positive indication from the landlord. While you're speaking with the landlord to apply, to get the deal and apply planning, we're not talking about development as yet. We're talking about just planning gain. You're already speaking with the builder saying, I'm about to get a deal in this region. Would you like to build it? Okay? You're already lining up the buyers before you even start to do the deal. Okay? Likewise, if you're developing it, okay, before you even develop, you can start selling by creating CGIs, which is computer generated images. Okay? You don't need to wait to sell just because your development is not built. You start selling the day you put the first foundation. Okay? CGIs don't cost a lot. They're not very expensive, guys. We got them done. I think we paid £600 for, I think it was 8 units. Okay? I think these days they might cost a bit more, probably maybe £1,000, £1,200. Okay? Apply for planning permission. Apply for planning permission. Reapply to extend planning. Now, this is all about optimizing the planning. Okay? Because once you apply, does not mean that's like written on stone and you just have to go with that. All that means is, you know, you do a pre-app or you do an app and that's what you can get. But don't hesitate, but just because something has changed that you can get an extra floor. Okay? Or you can extend to the back or to the side or whatever. This is always, you're always at any given time optimizing your site. Okay? Understand any planning conditions, they are workable. You'll always get a list of conditions when you apply. You need to work through them to make sure that you cover everything. You don't want to piss any planning officer off. Brainstorm the design. It is the best it can be. Get building regulations, drawings prepared. Appoint company for building control. Okay. Appoint structural engineer, appoint company for SAP, CALs, and EPCs. Appoint other specialists as necessary. Appoint principal designer. Put together a schedule of works, arrange lease plans, register address. I think one thing that's not written here is, it might come a bit further, is apply for all the utilities. Okay. Apply utilities. Okay. Okay. We applied for the upgrade of the electrics of one of our hotels in September 23. We still haven't finished. And the amazing structural guys, different regions, different companies. The one I'm dealing with is Northwest Electric, including EDF, are the biggest nightmares you will get. Okay. So don't be surprised that you apply for utilities and this alone takes you 6 to 12 months. Okay. There are special consultants who will apply for utilities. If you have one in your region, a decent one, please do not hesitate to spend that money. They will do a 10 times better job than you and me can. Okay. Don't try and save money here and there, a few pennies. These guys do a really good job, and there's a reason they charge that little extra money, but I promise you it's worth every single penny. Okay. Any questions in terms of what these steps are? Anyone? Okay. Good stuff. Apply for new service connections. Oh, there we go. Apply utilities. That was the next step, guys. I'm going to remove this. Apply for new service connections. Most time consuming is this step. Apply for new service connections. Okay. Obtain costs for warranties, discharge planning conditions, obtain party wall approvals, put together a budget, put together a timeline. Gantt chart, guys. You need a Gantt chart to be able to put timeline on all of this. And I promise you, I have seen very rarely any development that is not delayed. So make sure that you try and stick to your timeline as much as you can. The longer it drags, the more it costs you in terms of finance cost and eventually in different costs as well. Okay. Opportunity and time cost. Notify warranty provider when works will commence. Remember, you have to get what they called the build warranty. Okay. I think that one of the best ones is I can't remember, I keep forgetting the name. I've used 2 different companies for this, but you need to get warranty when you are building, and then you want to make sure that you keep them informed at every step of the way where the site is. Okay, and then they normally give you a 10 years warranty of the build as well. Okay. Notify your insurer of the works. That's pretty obvious. Sill cleared. Sill is, raise your hand if you know what sill is. Anyone knows what sill is? Community infrastructure levy. Okay, which means that you need to pay a tax, in essence, for the council to give you an approval, and this is quite expensive. Normally sills, I mean, the last sill that we paid was £85,000. Okay, I know for sure if we were doing the same development today, that sill has gone up to, I think, 123,000, 124,000 pounds. Okay, so they can be a good part of what you do. So you need to be aware of what the sill is, and that's all a part of the planning application that you will get to understand how they calculate sill as well.
Is there a percentage of something, or is there a band, or how do they calculate it?
So last time when I checked, they would charge. Every council is different. Alan, are you there? I think he's just gone off the screen. I actually don't remember how they calculate, Puneet. I don't want to give you an answer that I'm not. I don't remember.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. I checked this. I think I checked this like 4 or 5 years ago, 4 years ago. I literally don't remember how they calculate. But one thing I do know is that someone bought a site without knowing what the sill was. He ended up losing 50% of his profits in sale.
Wow.
Yeah. So do not go ahead with something. Sale is a tax, and sometimes it can be so high that it can actually make or break a deal.
Yeah.
Okay. Like so, but I literally don't remember. Alan might know this for sure. Or for that matter, if you go and check this online, this is online information, you'll find it. I just don't remember it for some reason.
Gross internal area.
Is it based on gross internal area?
Yeah, we develop. Yeah.
So it's community infrastructure levy.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so it's multiplying the gross internal area, PIA, for development by the sill rate. So there must be a fixed rate per square foot or per square meter.
Thank you for reminding. You're right. It is based on that. However, Alan, do you remember how do they calculate sill these days?
It's based on the area of the development, I believe.
Net sellable area, yeah.
Yeah, usually on the local authority's website, they'll give you a guide so you can calculate it yourself.
Yeah. Is it in the supplementary notes? I think it might be in the supplementary notes.
Yes, I believe so. Yes, I've noticed it on several of the things I've looked at. It can be quite considerable cost, so it can take away the profit from the job. So. Oh
yeah, it can make and break a deal sometimes. Yeah. But yeah, I think the last time when I saw it's likely in the supplementary notes. So make sure you check your supplementary notes.
Yeah. Just to mention, Jack, we spoke about planning approvals for local authorities, and I put a link in the chat for everyone's information. It's a gov.uk statistics, and if you go to that link, there are a whole range of statistics about local authorities there. So you can, as you were suggesting, you can quite easily check up on the performance.
Can you share this link in the WhatsApp group rather than here?
Yes, I'll do that. Yeah,
I
of course.
can't see it at the moment, but it would be good to see this link
in
the WhatsApp community.
I'll put it in the WhatsApp group. Yeah, no problem.
Thank you for that. Like I said, guys, 50% of what you see as due diligence in this sheet can be done on Google for absolutely free. You just have to understand what you're looking for in the first place. Give me one sec, guys. Sorry about that, guys. That was my daughter asking for her. I can't look. Shortlisted builders to request a price from. Hell of a process. You want to make sure that you get at least 3 quotations for everything. Builders, procurement of material, anything that you're going to pay money for, make sure you get at least 3 quotations. That's a normal standard practice, and it's a good practice to follow at every step of the way. At the same time, when you have onboard investors, it's a good practice because if they were to question anything that you do later, you can always present that information that, look, I went through 3 quotations for this, and then I didn't just take an impulsive decision, if I may say so. Okay. Tender the project. Get at least 3 builders to bid and tender for it. Compare the quotes. What are they based on? Schedule of works. Okay. Appoint a contractor. Sign a JCT contract, guys. If you hire a builder, sign a JCT contractor. JCT contract. Do not just hire a builder verbally. I can assure you, you will literally end up in trouble and absolutely nothing else. Okay. What it does, in fact, I remember sharing a story when someone had a trouble with the builder. The builder wanted to invoice another £130,000. The developer said, I don't want to pay you. 10 years later, the developer ended up paying 1.3 million ordered by court. Okay, so you do not want to end up in the space. Make sure you do everything in black and white. The more detail you have in your schedule of works and in your schedule chart, the easier you're making your life, down to the quality of the socket that you will use, down to a bulb that you're going to use. That is how detailed you have to be in your schedule of works. And like I said, your timeline, because you will save yourself loads and loads of money in finance costs and trouble, obviously. Obtain contractor CIS details, which is really insurance details. Okay. Provide documents to verify VAT charge. Okay. Because remember, at every step of the way, you will get VAT charged and you have to claim back that VAT. So you make sure that you're working with a good bookkeeper and an accountant, that you are not behind all of this stuff. Okay. Discharge pre-occupation conditions. Okay. That means there are conditions and there's pre-occupation conditions which you need to discharge before you can have people moving in. Okay. This is normally attached to when you get planning approved. Okay. Obtain EPCs, which is the energy performance certificate these days, which is normally issued for 10 years. If I remember, 10 years. I got one done, I think it was 4 or 5 months ago. And obtain other warranties which are standard as in new build warranties. Okay. Utilities to be looked from down to up. What do I mean by that? Raise your hand if you know what I mean by that. I want to see if you know what I mean by that. So utilities, as in electric, gas, if you're building something, they will be installed hypothetically, let's say on the ground floor, and those wires or those pipes will go from down to up. Okay. However, the soil pipe goes from up to down. Okay. That's what it means, okay? Topography survey to match the title, okay? Site access, like being able to see cars going past and at what speed. Guys, super important, okay? Number of sites I see who are which are never going to get planning because of the road speed or whatever now, or if you can actually see cars coming in and out. Site access, which I remember Alan mentioned, I think it was a couple of sessions ago, it needs to be 4.2 meters or something.
Yeah, 3.4 meters. It's for
3.4
emergency vehicle access.
Yes, emergency vehicle access. Yeah, that's what it is. Manholes on site. Is there any manholes on site? I've seen sites with manholes and you really can't build anything there. Okay. Fiber optic cables becomes a challenge if you don't pre-plan this. What's underneath, as in what's underneath the land? Gas, electric, drainage, you need to know all of that. This is all a part of the due diligence. High voltage wires underneath the ground as well as above the ground. Okay, I remember looking at a site where there was wires above the ground, which I couldn't see from any tool that I was using. Eventually, I remember Jasim ended up giving me the answer. There's a high voltage wire on top, and then you're very likely not going to get planning permission just because of that. Okay, so not just that you look under the ground, you look over the ground as well. Okay. Ground conditions, geological survey, geotechnical and geo-environmental surveys. Don't even ask me, guys. You just have to hire consultants for all of this stuff. Those who have studied this stuff may know. I personally don't. Okay. Historic maps. Okay, very, very important for multiple reasons. One I know for sure is that if, let's say, a site was used for in let's say World War I or World War II, the site was used for something that might have strong contamination, you don't have to start digging into it if you can check historic maps. You don't want to end up with a site you buy or looking to get, which might be highly contaminated and can cost you a lot to just get that corrected. Okay. What else historic maps can give you? Historic maps can also give you that if a site was used for something else, and then eventually, through the decades is changed to something else, and now that the laws have changed, that it can now be used for something new or something that was previously it was used for. Please raise your hand if you know what I mean. Yeah, please add that to this, Alan.
Yeah, just to mention, in some areas you get unexploded ordnance, and there are records of near misses on bombs, because what the air raid wardens used to do, they used to plot where bombs had exploded, and then they'd record where they didn't explode. So places like Plymouth, Portsmouth, London, I've had some experience of identifying locations of apparent unexploded ordnance. As it happened, it was negative for ours, but it is something you've got to take consideration of in some locations. Yeah,
it is. Yes, that's true. And like I said, one more thing which I observed is in some locations there, let's say a site was 150 years ago residential, right? Maybe like 50 years ago they started using it as a commercial, and then 20 years ago it all shut down, and now there's nothing on the land. Okay. Don't be surprised when you look at historic maps that you can actually now go back and build it into either a residential or a commercial, while you were thinking, well, this looks like a green belt. It may not be a green belt.
Yeah.
Just it looks on the surface. So this is something that I have seen in the journey that you can pick on as well.
Yeah. In some parts, you get mining areas, and you can get subsidence and things like sinkholes. So in the Midlands, I came across one site where there was subsidence as a result of mining activity. So it's another thing to check. Yeah.
Thank you for adding that, Alan. Thank you. Flood maps. Flood maps are pretty straightforward. You can check them on Nimbus Maps. I'm not sure if you can check flood maps on Google. I'm pretty sure even if you did find them on Google, that they won't be very accurate. So I think really for flood maps, you do need Nimbus maps, or you can just ask me. I can check this with just one single click. If a site is in flood maps area, even in the flood maps, I want to stop this share, right? There is, I think, different categories. I don't know the whole categories names and whatever, but there's categories where if it is completely a flood zone area, you're not going to get planning, while there are others which may come in like the lower end of the flood zone, and then you can get planning. So just because something comes under that zone, you want to check that which category it is in. This is something that I have come across as well. I don't remember the names. Alan might even know the names. Okay.
Yeah, you got zone 1, 2, and 3, and as you say, I mean, the best thing is just to be very cautious about developing in a flood zone, because you can end up with a property that's unmortgageable. So I would certainly caution it.
Yeah, it's a good one, Alan. I'd like to add to that. I came across a property in Collinbrook near Heathrow, where someone bought a pub with loads of lands at the back. And when I checked that on Nimbus Maps, well, this was, I think, 2 or 3 years ago, a part of the back of the land came under flood zone. But later, when I dug deeper into it, it was one of those lower end of the flood zones. And eventually, the guy ended up getting planning permission for multiple flats back.
Right. It's not impossible, but you can incur extra costs. So
it does cost you more. That's obvious. But I think the reason for them getting approval was because it wasn't like the strong level 1 or whatever. Whatever they calculated on. It was based on the lower end of the flood zone. And so they did all the corrections they needed with the site to make it, safer. And they ended up getting planning permissions. But it does cost you more. You're right.
Yeah, I did one site in Guildford, the Ladymead commercial side, and all the buildings there were on raised platforms 1 meter high because of the flood risk. And then you've got to have drainage systems that are specialised, so it stops the backup of flood water through the drainage system. So it adds to your cost, but it is solvable.
It is solvable. Thank you for sharing that. I have come across all of this stuff. Yes. Trees. It is TPO'd. There's ways around it. I'm going to stop sharing screen, guys. Okay. Again, it's exactly the same thing as with what you see with flooding. Trees are, if they are completely TPO'd, you can't remove them. Okay. But then there are other ways to look at it, as in the sense some trees may not be strong, or there are other ways. There are some trees which are lower category. I can't remember the categories, but then you can sometimes remove them. Other times they may not be allowed. You do need to check this information before you make a decision on if you can build. Again, this stuff, the local consultants can work alongside you on this, but it is again categorized if certain trees can be removed or they can't be removed. And if they can't be removed, you just have to work around it. And if they can be removed, that the local consultants will be able to share if it is possible to get them removed in the first place. Okay. I've actually seen developments being built while on the main road there are TPO trees right in front, and it is covering the whole development, and you can't remove them. Okay, I've seen developments like that. So don't be disheartened looking at a site and say, well, there's a TPO tree. What the hell am I going to do? There are always, well, in most cases, ways around it. Okay. Ecology calendar. Don't even ask. I have no clue what that is. Okay. It's in there. You need to check what it is, and you need to go through the damn step. Alan can tell you what it is.
Yeah, I mean, you need to avoid doing construction work which might interfere with birds when they're nesting. Basically, that can put you back, and you can't disturb bats. You may have to have a bat survey done by an ecologist.
Yeah, bat survey is another one that I've come across. Yeah.
Cost you an arm and a leg, and you might have to provide an alternative home for the bats if you do disturb their habitat.
I've come across that as well. And guess what? If you think you have rights, guys, in this country, birds have more rights than humans do. Okay, so just be aware of that. Okay. In fact, I came across one of the hotels had a queen bee nest. Okay, so I went to check online. What do? I found out that queen bees are protected in the country, okay? And that you can't touch them. So I called up the council and they said, are they queen bees? I said, I don't know if they're queen bees or not. You come and check. I said, okay, to turn up, we're going to charge you, I think it was like £200. I can't remember the exact figure, but £200 something. And we'll come and deal with it. They came, they checked, these are queen bees. We are not going to touch them. Okay? So from seagulls to bats to queen bees, just be aware that most of the birds are protected, and you just have to work your way around it. There's always ways around it, but just be aware of that. Okay. Building over agreements. Okay. So building over agreements, I'm just trying to think exactly. Can you build, Alan, are you aware of building over agreements?
I think you'd have to have mutual agreement between the parties. You can't just build over somebody else's property without their agreement. Yeah, so
this is legal stuff, which means that you need to be aware of the title and its covenants, and be aware of your design, because anything that you build cannot be obviously on someone else's land or whatever. But at the same time, there is problem of shadows, not shadows, sorry, sunlight.
Yes.
There is, well, sunlight is actually a major part of your the drawings that you're going to create. They need to get, so your neighbor, you can't create something that's going to stop sunlight coming into their windows.
Yeah.
And another 500,000 other ways to look at this. But again, your planning officer should know all of this stuff, including your architect. Okay.
Yeah.
Party wall is straightforward. You don't start building unless you have a good party wall agreement with your neighbor. The last thing you want is your neighbor suing you for something stupid. Okay. Easements right away. Check exact workings. Again, goes back to the title. Covenants on your title, rights of light. I mentioned that. Title issues. Title can have many, many different issues, guys. Always make sure you read the title, because sometimes there are very, very strong covenants where you cannot build. So when you look at, for example, I'll give you an example. Let's say you look at a region where very, very large land class, there's only one detached house built, but seems like no one has built anything in the garden. The likely is there are strong covenants in place not to build anything there. Okay, and those covenants can be sometimes as old as 200, 300, 400 years old. Okay, and in many cases they might not even make sense, but you need to be aware of them. But do not be disheartened that you cannot overcome them. In some cases, you can even overcome them if you just work with your local consultants, guys. Okay. Oversale licenses. I don't know what that is. I've learned it somewhere. I don't remember. Do you want to add something to this? Do you know what this is, Alan?
Yeah, this is like if you had scaffolding which you wanted to put up temporarily, you may have to get an oversailing license to do that. But usually if you've got a reasonable party to deal with, you can get them, but you obviously have to take care you don't cause any damage to the neighboring property.
That is right. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Thank you for that. I'll add. This is the scaffolding one.
Okay.
Unregistered land. Okay. I have personally not come across this situation, but there are times when a land is unregistered. I don't know what would I do with that. Do you know, Alan?
Yeah, you can make inquiries, and you can actually, if make inquiries of the neighbours, see if they know who the owner of the property is, and you can make an attempt to register it in your own name. But obviously only after you've exhausted all the inquiries to try and find out whose land it is. There are these things that come up. Occasionally, very occasionally, but yeah, it is possible to acquire land that's unregistered.
Unregistered, yeah. Remember, the registration of the land only came in at the early part of the last century. So don't think like I don't think there was any registrations happening back in 18th century, not that I can think of or aware of. Okay, so don't be surprised that you come across some property that's not registered at all. Okay? Boundary disputes, just be aware of them. Title will help you with this. Overage. I can do a whole session about overage, but let me explain what overage means. Okay, I'll give you a good example. We did a deal where I came across a deal where the landlord was an elderly gentleman, okay, baby boomer, 70 plus. He was struggling with squatters at the property. It was a property. It was a 6-bedroom HMO in Romford. Eventually, we agreed the price with the landlord at £240,000. Agreed a sales fee as well, which was 2%. So on the £240,000, we were going to get 2%, which is £4,800. We sold that property to someone for £260,000, making an overage of 20 grand plus the 4,800, making the sourcing fee of £24,800, which in essence is almost 10% of the purchase price. Raise your hand if you know what I mean. Yeah, that's fine, Alan. You can go. I know you have a session later as well. But overage is simply not selling at a sourcing fee. Anyone, when they start talking about sourcing fee, I always know that they're newbies. I do not sell any site at a sourcing fee, guys. I sell based on overage, which means that if I am going to make the developer £1 million, I want to make sure that I make 100 grand. Okay, but if I turn up to the guy and say, I'm going to charge you 10% sourcing fee, what do you think he's going to say? He's going to say, F off, right? But if I turn up to the guy and say, I'm going to make you £1 million in profits, and I'm going to charge you 100 grand for that, what do you think he's going to say? Okay, like I said, I can do a complete session on overage and give you lots and lots of examples. Okay, but be aware that do not work on a percentage. Work on overage of the value you bring on the table. If you are going to bring a deal that's going to make the developer 10 million, if I turn up, if I sell a deal that's going to make the developer 10 million, I'm charging £1 million, guys. Okay, and if they don't want to buy it, I'll just go and find another buyer, because I am making them 9 million in profits after paying me. So they're not paying me, I am paying myself. Does that make sense? Okay, so please stop using the word sourcing fee. Start to use overage in your deals within. Okay, any questions, guys, on overage? All right, clear on that. Thank you.
Actually, I've got I
yes,
heard about overage when people let's say when you sell once now I can't remember the exact occasion, but people would sell and then the owner would later on require percentage of the further sale for the price. You know that they called it overage also. I read about it.
It is overage. So overage is simply a percentage of the value you bring the meat, irrespective of how you structure this. But you want to make sure that you have a good agreement in place when you agree the overage, because if you don't have a very good agreement and the buyer decides to not pay you, there's nothing you can do. Okay, I have right now, I can tell you one where I agreed verbally with someone, well, not even just verbally, but through WhatsApp messages, someone agreed to pay a fee of the money that I raised for him. Eventually he didn't pay. Now that bill is at 76 grand, which he's not paying. Okay, so just have a very good agreement in place. So I've been through this experience of not having something in a very good tight agreement so that they can't just walk away. Okay.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Footpaths and bridleways, again, you need to be aware that the council expects you to, repair the footpath or create a new footpath when you're developing something. Last time when I did this, initially the council said we will pay for the pavement. They eventually said we are not going to pay, you have to pay, and that bill, and then you have to use their approved subcontractor, which means they're expensive. We ended up paying, I think, 21, 22 grand just for getting the footpath done. All right, so just be aware of all of this, that this can go either way. Way leaves, again, you have to check online. Technical stuff, I don't know. Prescriptive easements, again, technical. Sorry, when I say technical, this is legal. Check online. Ransom or ransom strips, very, very important to know. Very important to know ransom strips. Okay, ransom strips are where you look at a piece of land, and let's say that the owner doesn't want to sell. And what people tend to do is, if they're their neighbors, they will buy the land which gives them access. They'll buy a very small piece of land which gives them access, the side access, and now all of a sudden, when the seller of that land wants to sell, no one is going to buy, because the access to that site has been bought by someone else, which you can clearly see when you're looking at different titles. They're called ransom strips, which means now that person who's bought the access land, that's the only person who can buy that land. Does that make sense? Raise your hand. And a lot of people, this is a full-time job for them to sit down and buy ransom strips and then just wait on it. And then when the seller wants to sell, or the landlord wants to sell, they have no choice but to sell it to this person. This is a full-time thing for many, many people who understand ransom strips. Okay. Local authority highway search, very, very important to do. Ransom in case. Prescriptive right of light, again, all in the legal titles. Noise screening, you have to do noise screening again. You have to hire all of these consultants. LPA statutory consultants, consultants for planning are adjacent local authorities, parish and community councils. You need to be aware if there is any levy on that. Building control, you have to hire a building control of consultant. Canal and River Trust, you need to be aware of them. Civil Aviation, you need to be aware of them. The Crown Estates Commissioner. Again, most of everything that you see at the back of that is different consultants. I am at number 123, or for that matter, overage, or let's say 120 ransom strips. I covered that. I will continue from 120 with another session. Okay, my brain is tired talking about all of this technical stuff. Okay, guys, but I've covered most of it. It's recorded, so it'll be on the server for you to watch whenever you want. I hope this session was helpful. We will continue from 122 in another session. If you have any questions, please do ask me. Punit, I've covered the sheet till 120. I will continue with the rest on other sessions. Do you have any questions at this stage?
No, sorry, there was someone at the door, so I had to quickly get it.
That's okay.
No, that's all fine. That was really, really useful. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Grace, any questions at this stage?
Jack, at this stage,
Yeah.
I don't have any question. I'm just listening. Although, to be honest, this is very, very advanced for me.
Yes.
At this stage.
Yeah.
So
that's okay.
I can only make some senses.
Yeah.
And I hope I will be able to, when the time comes,
yeah.
I will probably refer to this video.
Yes.
Or chase you up. I don't know.
Not a problem at all. Next session we're going to do is all about persuasion skills and grow model. Okay, guys? Have an amazing day.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
Care, guys.
All the best. Bye-bye. Cheers.